Hello students, welcome to online classes. This is Swati Madam, your biology teacher from Silver Oak School. Hope you are doing good. Are you ready with notebook and pen? Let us start the class now. Before starting today's session, let us recall what are the things we learned before. We discussed about photosynthesis process, the equation, balanced equation for photosynthesis, the differences between autotrophs and heterotrophs. Later, we have seen one experiment to prove the presence of starch in leaves. Today, we are going to discuss about a topic called materials needed for the process of photosynthesis. Students, we discussed about photosynthetic equation. In this, I clearly explained about what are the raw materials needed for photosynthesis. Let us recall it. What are the raw materials needed for photosynthesis? The raw materials involved in the process of photosynthesis are carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll pigment and sunlight. Do you think the equation tells us about all the materials involved in the process of photosynthesis? It took scientists over 3,000 years to find out about the materials involved in the process of photosynthesis. Still, we don't know about several materials involved in the process of photosynthesis. Let us study how the scientists experimented about the raw materials required for the process of photosynthesis. The first experiment is Van Helmont experiment with willow plant. We have studied about Van Helmont experiment in the previous session. There we understood that not only from the soil but also from water and light it takes the materials required for photosynthesis. Let us recall that activity once again. Van Helmont took a pot of soil with a willow seedling. Then he weighed the pot of soil and the willow tree separately. He planted the tree by sunlight and watered it every day. Following observations were made from the experiment. After 5 years, he took the tree out and weighed it. Then he weighed the soil thinking that the weight of the tree came from the soil. But the weight of the soil weighed nearly the same. 90.8 kgs when he started and 90.23 kgs after 5 years. That means only 57 grams. Now let us learn about an experiment which will reveal the role of air in the process of photosynthesis. This one helps us to find out the role of air in the process of photosynthesis. It is interesting to know about the experiment which was one of the several milestones in the gradual development of our understanding in the process of photosynthesis. Let us study now. Joseph Priestley. Note down students, the scientist by name Joseph Priestley. Joseph Joseph Priestley in the year 1770 performed a series of experiments to reveal the role of air in the process of photosynthesis. Before learning this experiment, let us recall two things. The names of two scientists. Joseph Priestley is the scientist who discovered oxygen. During that time, photosynthesis was not known to the scientists. It is important to note down that during that time, 1770s, about photosynthesis, scientists doesn't know anything. So here, Joseph Priestley conducted several experiments with bell jar, which we are going to see now. So who discovered oxygen? Joseph Priestley discovered oxygen in the year 1774. Later, the term oxygen was coined by the scientist Lavoisier. Note down students, Joseph Priestley discovered oxygen. Lavoisier coined the term oxygen. Lavoisier. Lavoisier coined the term oxygen in the year 1775. I am repeating it. Note down. Joseph Priestley discovered oxygen. Lavoisier coined the term oxygen. These two scientists' names are very important in our 10th grade. Priestley did an experiment with bell jar by using mint plant, burning candle and rat. And he hypothesized that plants restore the air what breathing animals and burning candles remove. Please note down students, what was Priestley's hypothesis? Plants restore the air what breathing animals and burning candles remove. Let us see the experiment done by Priestley in bell jar.
Joseph Priestley, who discovered oxygen in 1774, performed a series of experiments to reveal the essential role of air in the growth of green plants. He observed that when a burning candle is enclosed in a bell jar, the flame of the candle is gradually put off. In the same way, a mouse also suffocates in a closed space, such as in an enclosed bell jar, and dies. From these observations, Priestley concluded that a burning candle and an animal change the composition of the air. He reasoned that something was necessary in the air to keep the flame burning and to make the mouse stay alive. Priestley then placed a mint plant inside the same bell jars, and he found that the mouse stayed alive and the candle, when lighted from outside, continued burning in the presence of the mint plant. Priestley hypothesized that the plants produced a gas, oxygen, that supported the burning of the candle and also allowed the mouse to survive respiration. The production of the gas takes place due to a massive exchange of gases occurring through a particular section of the leaves called stomata, and also through loose tissues on stems, roots, etc. Let us discuss in brief about how carbon dioxide is useful for photosynthesis.
Students, here I am providing the detailed description of bell jar experiment did by Joseph Priestley. Joseph Priestley in the year 1770 performed a series of experiments that revealed the essential role of air in the growth of green plants. Priestley discovered oxygen in the year 1774. Students, please note down, Priestley discovered oxygen in the year 1774. Priestley observed that a candle burning in a closed space, a bell jar, soon gets extinguished. Similarly, a mouse would soon suffocate in a closed space of the bell jar and it will die. He concluded that a burning candle or an animal both somehow damage air. But when mint plant is placed in the same bell jar, he found that the mouse stayed alive and the candle, when lighted from outside, continued burning in the presence of mint plant because of the release of oxygen gas from the mint plant. Priestley hypothesized as plants restore to the air whatever breathing animals and burning candles remove. Which gas is removed by breathing animals and burning candles here? Oxygen. And these plants will release out oxygen, which will be helpful for breathing and burning of candles.
Now, let us see some of the questions given in our textbook regarding this bell jar experiment. What had Priestley did to introduce the mint plant into the bell jar without disturbing the experimental setup? Let me repeat the question. What had Priestley did to introduce the mint plant without disturbing the experimental setup? It's a hypothesis question. Here we can understand that he might have introduced the mint plant without the leaves, and later the mint plants might have produced leaves. Otherwise, he might have left the bell jar aside in the corner and might have introduced the mint plant. The second question, how did he lit the candle from outside? Here, Priestley might have used a convex lens through which a beam of sun rays might have lit the candle from outside. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you find any relationship between mint plant, burning candle and rat? I am repeating the question. Do you find any relationship between mint plant, burning candle and rat? Yes, there is a relationship. Here, plants will provide oxygen for lightening of the candle and breathing of rat. In turn, plants will receive carbon dioxide, which is required for the process of photosynthesis, from rat and burning candle. Here there is a relationship how Priestley hypothesized. Plants restore the air what burning candles and breathing animals remove. Here what the burning candles and breathing animals is removing? Oxygen it is removing. And this oxygen is restored by plants. Now the next question is how plants will take in carbon dioxide for the process of photosynthesis and oxygen for the process of respiration. How do they make the choice? As you know earlier, through stomata, carbon dioxide will be taken in during the process of photosynthesis. Through which it taken, as you know very clearly, you have learned in your 9th grade that stomata is helpful for the exchange of gases in plants, right? So through stomata it will take in carbon dioxide during the process of photosynthesis, and as well as during the process of respiration it may take through lenticels or aerial roots or also through stomata, and this choice has been made at the basic level itself. Within the cell organelles this choice has been made. Let us move on to the next experiment. The next experiment is about the important raw material required for the process of photosynthesis. Which is the important gas required in the process of photosynthesis? Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is the major raw material involved in the process of photosynthesis. Let us see this animation.
Carbon dioxide is essential for photosynthesis. Here is a small activity that will demonstrate that carbon dioxide is essential for the process of photosynthesis. Select a potted, healthy plant with long and narrow leaves. Keep it in the dark for 2 or 3 days. This will ensure that the leaves are free from starch. Now, take a wide-mouthed glass bottle with a cork to close the mouth of the bottle. Split the cork vertically. On the day of the experiment, take 5 to 10 milliliters of potassium hydroxide solution in the bottle. Potassium hydroxide absorbs the carbon dioxide present in the bottle. Early in the morning, insert 1/2 of a selected leaf into the bottle through the split cork without cutting it from the plant. The other half of the leaf or the base part is to be left outside the cork. The bottle is to be kept airtight, which can be achieved by applying grease or Vaseline around the rim of the mouth of the bottle. Make sure that the outside air does not come in contact with the leaf in the bottle. Keep this unit in the sunlight for 3 to 4 hours. After 3 to 4 hours, detach the leaf from the plant and take it out of the bottle. Test it for starch with iodine solution. We'll observe that the part of the leaf which was inside the bottle does not turn deep blue. However, the part of the leaf that was exposed to the surroundings prepares starch and so turns deep blue. Note that both halves of the leaf receive the same amount of sunlight and water and both have chloroplasts. However, the portion of the leaf that was inside the bottle could not receive carbon dioxide. This proves that green leaves can perform photosynthesis only in the presence of carbon dioxide.
Students, let us discuss about the procedure regarding that carbon dioxide is necessary for the process of photosynthesis. And this experiment is also known as Moll's half-leaf experiment. Please note down, students, this carbon dioxide experiment is also known as Moll's half-leaf experiment, and the name was given after the inventor. The aim of this experiment is to show that carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis. Note down, students, the aim of this experiment is to show that carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis. What are the materials required here? 2 healthy potted plants of same size, 2 glass plates, 2 bell jars, Vaseline or grease, watch glass, potassium hydroxide solution or pellets, KOH, potassium hydroxide, alcohol, spirit lamp and beaker. Now coming to the procedure. A potted plant is kept in dark for 3 days so that the leaves become free from starch. Now, a healthy leaf is selected for experiment. A wide-mouthed bottle is taken and a little KOH solution. This KOH solution is known as potassium hydroxide solution. Either you can select solution or pellets and add it to it. What is the use of this KOH solution? It absorbs the carbon dioxide present inside the bottle. Half part of the leaf is kept inside the bottle with the help of split cork. The apparatus is kept in bright sunlight for few hours. Then the leaf is plucked and boiled in 70% alcohol. It is stained with iodine solution. I am repeating the procedure. First of all, you have to destarch the plant by keeping it in dark, and then you have to keep it in sunlight. Now you have to select a leaf. 2 leaves we have to select. One leaf completely exposed to sunlight, and the another leaf, half of the leaf should be kept inside a bottle containing KOH solution where it absorbs carbon dioxide, and half of the leaf should be exposed to the sunlight so that it can prepare the starch. Now it is kept in bright sunlight for few hours. Later, the leaf which is completely exposed to sunlight, it should be plucked, and the another leaf, half of the leaf which is kept inside and half of the leaf which is exposed to sunlight is to be plucked off and then tested with iodine solution. Now clearly we can say that it was observed that the portion of the leaf which was outside the bottle turned blue-black color, indicating the presence of starch. But the portion of the leaf which was enclosed within the bottle will not show the presence of starch, because the KOH solution present inside the bottle will absorb the carbon dioxide present in the bottle. So there is no carbon dioxide. So there is no raw material for the process of photosynthesis. So it will not turn into blue-black color. Now while coming to the conclusion, this shows that carbon dioxide is essential for photosynthesis because the portion inside the bottle did not get the carbon dioxide as it was absorbed by KOH solution. Thus, carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis. I am repeating again, the carbon dioxide is essential for photosynthesis because the portion inside the bottle did not get carbon dioxide because of the presence of KOH solution, potassium hydroxide solution. So here it indicates that carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis. Students, hope you understood the procedure of this experiment. Now, there are certain precautions needed to be taken during this experiment. Let us see what are the precautions. The precautions needed to be taken during this experiment are: the part of the leaf kept inside the bottle should not touch the KOH solution, potassium hydroxide solution or hydrogen peroxide solution, whatever it may be, you can use. The second precaution is the apparatus should be kept airtight by applying grease or Vaseline so that the carbon dioxide should not enter into that bottle. Hope you understood the procedure.
Students, hope you understood Mole's half-leaf experiment. Here there are 2 questions given in your textbook regarding this experiment. The first one, why the plant is kept in dark and then in sunlight? I am repeating the question, why the plant is kept in dark and then in sunlight? As you know, when the plant is kept in dark, it stops the production of starch, preparation of food material by the process of photosynthesis. Later, after keeping in sunlight, it starts producing starch by using carbon dioxide through the process of photosynthesis. Because of that, it turns into blue-black color when we test with iodine solution. Why 2 leaves are used in this experiment? I am repeating the question. Why 2 leaves are used in this experiment? You know very clearly, when we test with iodine with the leaf which is completely exposed to the sunlight, it turns into blue-black color, indicating the presence of starch. But the leaf which is kept inside the flask containing potassium hydroxide solution or potassium hydroxide pellets, half of the leaf which is kept outside and exposed to sunlight will turn into blue-black color. The remaining half will not turn into blue-black color, indicating the absence of starch. Because here carbon dioxide is completely absorbed in the flask because of the presence of potassium hydroxide solution. So students, we have so far discussed about the role of water and gases in the process of photosynthesis. Scientists who had been working on these lines had observed there are certain other factors which affects the process of photosynthesis. The next topic is about light and photosynthesis. As we studied earlier, sunlight is the energy source for the process of photosynthesis. In Priestley's time, scientists didn't understand about energy, but later on much was discovered about it. If energy is released when carbon dioxide and water is formed by combining oxygen with carbon and hydrogen, then what about the reverse? What about forming oxygen again and putting it back in the air? Eventually, scientists learned that the energy situation would also reverse. Oxygen formation would use up energy. That means if plants form oxygen, they have to get energy to make it possible. Where did the energy come from? To understand this topic, we should understand about the Jan Ingenhousz hydrilla experiment. A Dutch scientist by name Jan Ingenhousz. Note down students the scientist's name Jan Ingenhousz. Jan Ingenhousz found the answer. He studied the way in which plants formed oxygen. In 1779, in the year 1779, he noticed that it happened only in the presence of sunlight. In an experiment with aquatic plant hydrilla, he observed that in bright sunlight, small bubbles were formed around the green parts, while in the dark it did not form. He also found that the gas present in the bubbles was oxygen. What is the gas present here in the bubbles? Oxygen is the gas which is present in the bubbles. After Jan Ingenhousz, it was further confirmed by a scientist's name called Engelmann. Engelmann. Engelmann, in the early 20th century, he detected the point of maximum rate of photosynthesis. He used a strand of algae and exposed it to different colors of light. Say for example, the colors which we see in the rainbow. He then used oxygen sensitive bacteria. Which bacteria? Oxygen sensitive bacteria he used and found they crowd around the areas illuminated with red and blue rays of light. This led to more studies on the effect of light on photosynthesis, the role of different compounds, for example, pigments in plants, and utilization of light energy.
Aerobic bacteria move towards the areas of Spirogyra, emitting the greatest quantities of oxygen. Using a microscope, Engelmann observed that bacteria congregated in highest numbers around the cells located in the blue and red regions of the spectrum. This means that the blue and red regions of the spectrum are the most effective for photosynthesis.
Students, let us recall the things what we have learnt today. Today, I have explained you about Priestley and Lavoisier. Priestley is the scientist who discovered oxygen in the year 1774 and Lavoisier is the scientist who coined the term oxygen in 1775. Later, we discussed about Bell jar experiment did by Priestley. With the Bell jar experiment, he hypothesized that plants restore the air what breathing animals and burning candles remove. Later, after that, we have discussed about an activity which proves that carbon dioxide is necessary for the process of photosynthesis, and that is known as Mohl's half-leaf experiment with KOH solution, potassium hydroxide solution. And after that, we learnt about the light and photosynthesis. Light and photosynthesis, there we learnt about two scientists by name Jan Ingenhousz and Engelmann. Jan Ingenhousz proved that oxygen gas is released in the form of bubbles during the hydrilla experiment, and then Engelmann proved that this source of sunlight is required for the process of photosynthesis. I have provided you some worksheets at the end, so after watching the video, try to do the worksheet so that it will be useful to you. Tomorrow we will meet again with the another class. Keep going. All the best.